first podcast.
No problem. Happy to be here, my friend.
Yeah, I always wanted to do podcast, but my first guest always wanted to be you.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm lucky, aren't I?
Yeah, because without you, I honestly, without you, I couldn't be here.
I wouldn't go that far.
But seriously, like I really appreciate that. So
Yeah.
okay, so let's yeah, I think it's you better to introduce yourself to my audience and follower. So let's yeah, so a little bit introduce you, like what's your background as an English teacher?
Sure. Yeah. So my background as an English teacher is I tend to specialize in business solutions. So I am a qualified teacher. I've taught elementary school for many years, but I'm qualified as a banker. And for that reason, I've worked a lot in corporate coaching. So particularly working in Germany and Frankfurt, coaching a lot of banking clients, helping them with their internal policies, that kind of thing. So people tend to come to me because they need somebody who has a good mastery of English, but also knows a lot about the finance world and the vocabulary that's involved with that. So I believe, Sangil, we met while I was having my first job ever as a banker there in Toronto. And everything else has been history since. Yeah.
Good. You know, like Korean people, they really care about school.
I've heard.
Where did you go to school? Very important. Very important.
Yeah. Okay. I have a degree from Carleton in the arts, and then I also have a degree from Queen's University in education. So I have a Bachelor of Education.
Yeah, and then you went to one of the best teachers college in Canada.
Yeah, it's also known as the most international one. So they're very focused on the person must have an international internship as part of their studies. So it's not a full semester abroad, but I think I had a month and a half in that I did a paper based on research in Germany about education. So everybody did something different. And I think the thing I like about the Queen's program, if anybody is thinking of being a teacher, is that they're very focused on, education is not just a little bubble where you live. It's we're in a big world or a small world, whichever way you want to look at it. So that was something interesting as part of that program.
That's right. That's right. So, all right. So first question I'd like to ask, what is the best way to start with English? So,
Okay.
but this video, because English people actually, they're not interesting, okay? Because they know how to speak English. But this video is for English second language people, specifically for my Korean followers and audience, because they ask me a lot, how do I study? What should I study? Because I'm in Canada, right?
Okay.
So, but English is not my major. I'm not English coach, so I like to actually invite professional English teacher like you, one of the best, actually the best person I know. So you teach us how to do it.
Right. Okay. So it helps to hear a bit about who we're talking about. So thanks for that. You have to think about the situation you're in, how many native speakers are there around me, that kind of thing. But generally speaking, I'd say, first of all, try to think of what you like to do in your own language. So one of the things in my language learning is I always had this idea, this dream, I want to be able to read the newspaper from the beginning to the end. But then I thought about it and I was like, I don't like reading the newspaper. So think about yourself and take out a notepad and take some notes more about yourself than about what I'm saying, just the thoughts that you come up with about yourself and your habits. And say, what do I like to do? What are my hobbies? I mean, do I like to listen to music videos all day? Okay, then I'll find the English equivalent of that. So if I'm a K-pop fan, then maybe try to find some singing, dancing groups that are English groups. Maybe they won't be as good as the Korean groups, but it's something similar that you will kind of enjoy. So think about what your hobbies are and what you like to do, and find a way to do that in English, because that's what's going to keep you coming back. It is not enough to just say, I want to learn a language, because learning a language, it's not about hard work. It's about consistent work over a long period of time.
Repetition will get you there.
Repetition over time. That's right.
My teacher said.
Yeah. So that's the first thing. Then once you've written a list of what you like to do, the next thing I would say is you need a goal in mind. And that's something that motivates you to come back and do these things that you like in English. So I wrote down a few goals, but everybody has a different one. So, for example, you should write this down on your notepad. I want to be able to travel internationally and to be able to communicate easily with people all over the world. Okay, so if you're someone who loves to travel, then the ability to speak English at a strong conversational level is important. That means that verbally speaking, verbal communication is more important than written communication for your goal. Okay, so keep that in mind for later. Or they would say, I want job. So I want this job. Okay, so what job? I want to be an investment banker. I want to be airline pilot. So think to yourself, okay, you want to work in such and such an industry. Write that down. I want to work in ... And imagine yourself doing that job and how good it will feel that you've invested the time to improve your English so that you can succeed at that. So number one is think of the things you like to do, write it down. Second, come up with a goal, form it into one sentence that you can repeat to yourself every time you wake up, or you can put it on a wall so you're reminded about it. And then you have actually, what's the best way to actually start? I would say there's three categories I'd put things into in terms of starting. Exposure meaning like seeing something or experiencing something. Usage and study. Usage meaning actually speaking the language. And even if you're talking to yourself in the mirror, you have to realize when you speak a language, the muscles of your mouth become trained, and your ear also is getting experience hearing the specific tones of this language and
like
the muscles.
Used to it.
Yeah, exactly. It's like when you do
adaptate.
Exactly. When you do a new exercise in the gym, you don't go really, really hard at it. First, you learn the motion, you memorize the motion, and then you maybe you do it differently. For me, I can't.
Impressive, man. Is that yeah, exactly. Wow, impressive.
So, and the other one is exposure, and this is the exposure is the easiest one now. So I'm living in Germany. I've lived here for about 5 years. When I moved here, it was very hard to find good German content to just hear the language. Like I could go to the library and I could find some audiobooks, but it was all content from 20 years ago. You know, it was just garbage. But now you can get Netflix and you can listen to things with English language. And even if you don't understand a single word, if you understand nothing, just having an English dialogue playing in the background, as long as the audio quality is good, your ear will, at first it will just sound like, just sounds. But then your brain, just like a child, it will begin to pick up the sounds of the language. The way that the language is formed. So even if you don't understand it consciously, just having it even in the background, even if you're not paying attention, your brain is your subliminal, and what do you call it? Subconscious is picking up all of this, and it's going to help you to become excellent in future. And then usage, we can come to usage later, but it's like I say, it's like doing these repetitions of the action so that your muscles are trained. So speaking it, hearing it, yeah.
Good. Okay, so what kind of exposure would you recommend? Like Netflix or YouTube or what kind of? Okay, can you be a little bit more specific? Which one we need to exposure? Here's the thing: a lot of people, they don't know their interest. When you're young, they don't know which major I have to choose. I know because I'm lucky. My interest is exercise. I go exercise influencer or YouTuber or pumping iron, whatever. I watch it. But a lot of people, they don't know what they are really interested in about. So can you give? I would say 50% of people, they don't really know their interest. So can you give
that's
example?
That's an amazingly true point. Yeah. Basically write the story of your life. Because if you just take out a diary and write the story of your life, and then you go back and read it, you'll realize that there are certain things you always come back to. So if you just take maybe a weekend and just write the story of your life in a as much detail as you can remember, you'll probably notice there's certain things you come back to. And so that's a way to find interest. The other part of your question, and also, of course, to be open-minded and try everything. So I don't know what the exact number was, but there's some research that shows when you have a young child and you're trying to feed them a new food, that it takes, 20 times eating this new food before the baby trusts it and will not cry. And this is a human instinct to avoid poisoning, right? So it's very easy because we have these safety instincts that, and it's the same as when you're working out. You think you've hit your limit, but you can go further than that. It's just a safety instinct to say, what are my limits? So if you have an interaction and you say, I'm going to try something out and it didn't go well, maybe you say, I don't want to go outside anymore. I don't want to meet any new people. You have to fight this instinct because, again, trying out many things will show you what you like. And the more you can try when you're young, the sooner you are, statistically, I would say, more likely to reach something that you enjoy. So try things out. And the second part of your question, Sang-il, was about what's the best form of exposure. So obviously, Netflix or Amazon Prime, these are your really amazing value for money. I'm not talking about the quality of the shows on them or anything, but just in terms of just being able to have 1,000 movies, within in a second later, is an amazing thing for a very low price. You asked about YouTube. So I like YouTube Pro. It costs, I think, 15 euros a month for me. And I like it because I can download the movies the videos and listen to them while I'm walking. So this is another thing. I don't like to sit down and study. I like to interact with the world. So I walk around the city, I see what's going on. But while I'm doing it, I'm studying. So I'm studying my statistics. I'm studying my finance stuff. I'm not just, and of course, if you enjoy walking around the city and just hearing the sounds of people talking, that's great. But this YouTube Pro and these other ways of downloading the things, podcasts, you can download them as well. They really help because you don't have to be sitting there. And so there's many, many ways.
Okay, thank you. So Korean people so far, they spend, I don't know, like a lot of us. So for example, if you are like 4 or 5 years old, you send them private English like Montessori, and then grade, elementary school, middle school, after school, they spend tons of money for English. All right. Like, is it necessary or is there any better way to, my question is, a lot of people right now interesting, what is the cheapest way or economic way to learn English, maximize your exposure and learning experience?
Right. So I think you asked a few questions there. So I think Elon Musk, the way he solves problems is first principles. So you're coming down to the one true. Well, I'm not explaining this perfectly, but you're breaking an idea down to the essential core truth of it. And so, what is the truth of education in Korea? Natural resources were limited. So what is the natural resource of Korea? It's innovation, it's intelligence. Exactly, Sang-il. That's exactly what I'm saying. And so education is, of course, you're increasing your own wealth by, that as well, by increasing your education. Now, that part is fundamentally true, but you need to ask yourself, okay, what point of investment is bringing me the returns for what I'm putting into it? So if you have a child and you have them going to school from 7 a.m. till I don't know what time, really, really long.
7 a.m. till 1 a.m.?
Okay, but it's not that simple. There's school and then they go to after school stuff and then they come home and they do the homework in the homework room, or it depends on where. But
yeah,
anyway,
the area, Gangnam style?
Yeah.
That area, okay? That area, no joke. They even surgery tongue, okay? To try to surgery to make my tongue to like your tongue, or anyway. So so kids go to school and sleep, and then after school, and then they go here, there until 1 a.m.
Yeah.
So is it necessary to learn English?
Yeah, so that's two different questions. That's my point, though, is basically you have in the example of a child, if you're a parent and you're watching this video for your child, you need to ask yourself, is my child really learning efficiently if they sleep only 4 hours a night or 5 hours a night? How much freedom and play is necessary for my child to be creative once they have the mathematical or linguistic knowledge? And that's a question you're going to have to answer for yourself. You might have a child that is very academically inclined, and they're in the right place. I mean, there's certain students, they love to work 12 hours a day on their stuff. Some of them do. But others, they require more stimulation of a kind of social nature. So these are things to take into account. Exercise, socialization. So you learn a lot by playing a football game, European football, with
soccer.
Soccer. Yeah, when you play soccer with your friends, you're learning project management, basically. Okay, you're learning who's going to be is there going to be a winner and a loser on my team, or are we going to each assist each other to make the goal? There's a lot of different ways to play a soccer game. So there's a learning that's going on from these non-academic sources as well, and that's something you need to be very conscious of. And your child can learn through this while actually having a happy life as well. Now, making it specifically about the money, this is where I come back to it. There is not a direct relationship between money spent and achievement. So input does not equal output. So ask yourself, is this adding value? And this is why the most important thing to do is to sit down and set goals. So if your goal for yourself is for your work, for your job, you can clearly define success. Success in your context at a simple level would mean, can I have a simple, friendly phone call where we exchange informal conversation? Okay, did you reach that goal? Okay, then what's the next micro goal of that goal? Next micro goal might be, I'd like to write a very simple email of a customer service nature. So for example, I bought, I bought a table. The table came damaged, arrived damaged. I need to return it to Amazon. I'm writing an email to Amazon explaining that very simple concept. And why am I saying this? Because these are concrete things. These are real things. They're not philosophical. A next step might be to write about something emotional or something like that. So break it down into the little steps. And that's why. Is it worth spending the money? The answer is, what is my goal? Is spending this money, first of all, getting me close to my goal? And second of all the ways I could spend my money, is this the best way of spending the money to get to my goal? So maybe for you, maybe you have a child and you're paying for 4 hours of English after school. Maybe the solution, it's not quitting the English school or increasing it. Maybe the solution is do 2.5 hours of English school or less, I don't know, and do something else like a team sport, right? So, but the big thing is identify a goal, and your goal will inform you if you are successfully spending your money. If you are you spending your money or are you investing your money?
Good idea. So can you give us a little bit of example? Spending money and investing money?
That is a tough thing to do. You do not need to spend a lot of money. So it's always good to have an English teacher. So I obviously teach English, but the number one thing is getting comfortable using the language. So what that means is your first goal is to find people with whom you can communicate, and then to just get comfortable talking with them. So the other thing is to have a mix of native speakers and other language learners. You need to have a group of people where you can feel comfortable to just sit with them, and you want to talk about a soccer game. That's why it's good to make a group, form a group with other language learners, and all you do is talk together. You don't correct the grammar. And that would bring me to something that's very common now in the philosophy of elementary school education, is that in the olden days, we used to grade the students, and so they would hand in an assignment, and we would grade them on everything. So if they were writing a paper about history, we would grade their grammar. But we don't do that anymore because we realized you need to tell the student in this particular moment, you're only being graded for this one component, right? So right now you're writing about history. I'm grading you on your knowledge of history. So what you can do to simulate that with your language learning friends is if you have 5 of them together on a Skype call or something, is you can agree together, okay, we're each going to have a notepad and we're going to take notes. And maybe we'll make a wiki. So a wiki is a shared online document where everyone can type into it. And then we can have a conversation. Each of us take notes on what was correct and what could be improved, and we submit it after. So so to find a way to use the language. So first of all, with people who are also language learners, and then the other part is to connect with people who speak the language at a native level. So how could you do that? Meetup.com is one way. So I've been to a few of those in Germany.
Okay.
And most of the people I met were speaking in English, but we're not native English speakers. So that was a good way to meet international people. But there's also what's called expat groups. So have a look for expat groups. That's not an application. That's a verbal concept. So just Google expat, Seoul, expat, whatever. And I think when we chatted before, Sangil, another idea that came up was to try to work at a hostel or in hotel reception. So any of these places where a lot of international people
Hotel not easy. Okay. So people right now, I'm specifically for like a focus. I like to focus on the young people, like like age like 3 till maybe 25. Yeah, usually before university. Okay, so before university, it's very difficult to work at the hotel. Actually, they have a very high bar to get in.
Okay.
Yeah, hostel. Yeah.
Okay, so here's another thing, and parents, you should just cover your ears. There's a lot of online games where you can chat with players in the game.
That's right.
And Americans, they love video games.
Yeah, they like to talk to Korean because they are the best.
I understand that the international championships are held in Korea.
Korean's the best.
And the advantage of that too would be, I don't know, there must be a game where like Warhammer or something where you can connect with people and chat with them over the headset. But the advantage of that is that you're sharing something you love. So the challenge is how do I find a way to practice the language? And also it has to be something you look forward to. So try to find a way to make it fun. So gaming, I would say, especially if you're in Korea, gaming would probably be a way to connect with people. Other ways are meetup.com. There's usually Facebook groups. So in Frankfurt, for example, we have a foreigners Facebook group. Very often they're closed groups, so you need to send a message to the owner of the group or the administrator and get included. So that's something. And then, of course, having a teacher does help. But the teacher should only be an administrator of your learning. They should be like, it's like you're the person who's going out into the forest and you meet this guide. And this guide says, okay, the path is like in that direction, go this way and look out for those rocks. And you're going to, so that's what teaching and learning should be like. Your own interest should motivate you to do it and you should be excited to do it. And they should be your guide through that process so that if you walk off the path, they can say, oh, wait a second, that verb is not expressed that way. Here's a little bit more of a good usage. Like a doctor, you're going for a checkup, or like a doctor, physiotherapist, personal trainer, the client needs to put the work in at the end of the day. If they don't do the exercise, it won't work. Do you know what I mean?
Of course. But personal trainers are different than doctors and physio. Doctors and physio, they make sick people better. For a personal trainer, they make people healthier so they don't have to go to see a doctor and physio.
That's true.
Okay, I want to add one more thing to that. My own experience, Toastmaster is really helped too.
Oh, yeah.
Toastmaster is like you pay like 6 months, $100. It's a really good experience. I like to add on to that.
Okay. Yeah, you make a good point because Toastmasters, a lot of people maybe don't know what that is. That is a society of people who are trying to learn the skill of public presentation and to do it better. Having a community of people with the same goal of, say, learning English, for example, who are supportive of one another and non-judgmental. This is a very empowering thing. And so just so, for those who don't know Toastmasters, you have people who speak quite well coming together with people who have a very hard time public speaking, and they work together to mutually support one another and create public presentation skills. So this is something, it's an international organization. I've never had anything to do with it, but I've known a few people who did it, and they seem to become more confident speakers. If you don't have access to Toastmasters, other ways that you can do it, and this is something that we do in elementary school as well, is with your group of fellow students, do speeches where one person stands up and does a speech about something, even if it was 30 seconds long, and you get comfortable. Now, let's say, for example, that you're very worried about doing this. Well, then do it in Korean first. Make a group of people where you present in public to the people in Korean or whatever language. And then when you're comfortable with that, try to do it in English. Because again, I come back to this first thing I said, is if you don't do something in your own language, you're not going to do it in another language. Or it's you might do it, but it's not so likely because we are creatures of habit. Habit is safe. Habit is comfortable.
That's right. Like before, okay, my own experience, when you go like English school, they give you like a lot of like CNN, like politics. It's difficult. It's not interesting. It's not my interest.
What are some other sources we could discuss?
CNBC and Bloomberg.
Yeah, Bloomberg is awesome. Bloomberg is awesome. I always recommend reading business news because there's so much less noise. Like if you read an article on Bloomberg or the Financial Times, you might totally disagree with what they're saying, but the amount of dead air in that story is like half as much as any other news source. So even if you can just argue with it and disagree with it, I always like business news for that reason.
Yeah, I'm subscribed Bloomberg and CNBC.
Yeah. Germany actually has, this is another one that would be nice, Deutsche Welle with a W. They have an English language news section, and while the syntax, it's not always the greatest native English level, but it's sort of like the business news. There's not so much extra content in there. Like if you're just trying to get to the point that you can complete an article, which is a very encouraging thing, that's another one to look at. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or there's Canadian ones as well. I think we have National Post as a business one.
CBC, CTV.
Yeah. Yes, CBC is the Canadian BBC, basically. So it's our national broadcaster.
CTV,
In the United States, they have NPR, that's National Public Radio. I think that's it's not sponsored in the same way as the CBC. It's not as big money, I think, but generally the people on NPR tend to speak very clearly. Like they're very well trained in terms of verbally.
I like 680 or something kind of news. I like it. That one.
Yeah, okay. 680 CFRA. Yeah.
Because that one is same thing over and over again.
Yeah. Well, actually, you make a really good point, and that's the possibility of repetition. So, personally, I hate repetition, and so
I love it. I love repetition. I love it.
That was the biggest challenge for me.
Korean people they are very good at doing the same thing over and over again.
Okay.
So that's why they until high school, I think Korean high school is one of the best high school in the world. I have a Asian background. Okay, Asian Asian the wisdom I do have right here. And the Western efficiency I do.
You took the best of both worlds. By the way, I think, do your clients know your background?
What background?
I tell a beautiful language learning story.
Yeah.
So, or should you tell the story? Maybe you tell it better.
You go ahead. You go ahead. You go ahead.
Okay, so this is the story of which we should have maybe started with this. It's the story of a Korean student who was a Taekwondo or
Still.
still is a Taekwondo master, and he came to Canada as a Taekwondo master. So basically, if you make this abstract, it's a Korean person who had a university level education and who found a job of some kind to support himself in his immigration. And at that time, although he did have expertise in his subject area, his English, he had a very hard time to speak in English. So this person we're talking about is, of course, Master Sang-il Jo. So in the summer of 2006, I was taking my first finance job as a banker. And there was this guy across the hallway of my apartment building. And he was always talking.
A little bit more explain about that apartment as well.
Go ahead, yeah.
You go ahead, that apartment.
Yeah, it was it was a student residence, and it was a very special summer because we had both signed on for the summer rental. And so there was a lot of international exchange students. So it was really like United Nations, a lot of Arabic people, a lot of Spanish people. And it was really cool because it was like an Egyptian pyramid. There was all these steps on the front. Or no, that's not Egyptian, that's Mayan. And everyone would sit on the steps.
The meeting area.
Yeah. And anybody walking by would just come and join in chat. And there was guys playing the guitar. And so anyway, so there was this guy who used to talk really loud and who was always cleaning his apartment. I could always hear him like talking and cleaning. And finally, I don't know how it happened, but I walked over to your apartment somehow, and I got chatting with you and some others, and we just clicked. We got along really well from the beginning. And at that time, so you told me your story about coming to Canada as a Taekwondo master, and you said, you know, Ben, I'm looking to get a job as a personal trainer, and maybe why don't you tell that part of the story because you know it better than I do.
Sure. So basically, okay, I came to Canada 2005 with $1,000, okay, with one-way ticket. After that, so, yeah, 2000. So we met 2006 around May, right? So that's finished my Taekwondo career, so master career. So I had a working holiday work visa, so it's only 1 year. So I wanted to stay here longer. So I needed to pass personal trainer exam. So I passed it. Very difficult anyway. So different language and the totally different subject. My background is engineering. So anyway. So I passed it. I tried to find a job. I did a lot of interview. I failed everywhere because they said, you know, you don't speak English. That's true. Because we didn't get into about grammar thing. Okay, so we study a lot of grammar and the writing and reading, but we don't really practice speaking part. So it's very difficult to communicate or explain something here in here, right?
Yeah.
So I failed. So I met you, and then we hung around. You know, we did a lot of cool things. You know, fishing over there. You know, tanning, or you know, then you got the burning a lot of things. You know, your white skin got red, and then you know, I remember that we caught a big fish over there as well. And then we come up with solution at the time. You know, a lot of Canadian, and then they're interesting about making body amazing like me, right? So. But my strength was, exercise and the nutrition, exercise and science was my strength. But my weakness was English. But your strength was English, and then you speak English, you're native, but you're interesting about learning exercise too. So we end up come up with solution. We share or exchange skill.
Yeah.
Right. So. Yeah. That's good. That was legally fine, ethically, because I didn't get money from you. So we went to the Good Life Fitness Club over there, Young and St. Clair. Not Young and St. Clair. So St. Clair West, right? Hang on. St. Clair West, you work. St. Clair West, you work. Yeah. And then Young and St. Clair was Good Life, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we exchange skill. I teach you how to exercise, and you teach me English and correct my English.
Yeah, and I think one of the amazing things about this is that we did not sit there and discuss teaching English or fitness. We sat down and we were just talking, and it just happened. And I think that's the amazing thing about meeting people who are traveling internationally. That meeting could have happened anywhere. Could have happened in Seoul. Could happen in Frankfurt. And so if you're open to these experiences, then things just tend to happen. Yeah. So then what happened next?
Exactly. And then, well, you know what? That's the destiny. And then, God always give you what you ask for. So I saw, okay, this is the last time I'm going to do it. If I fail, I'm going to go back to Korea. Seriously, at the time. Because I tried so hard. I had all the gym interview in Toronto, okay? Like you name it. One day I have like even 2 interviews one day, and then fail like, okay, this is it. This is the last time. If I fail, I'm gonna go back to Korea. All right. So we saw here Young St. Clair right there, Good Life, looking for part-time personal trainer. Part-time. And you help me interview. You're one of the best. Anyone looking for to hire, English teacher for interview? This guy. So you actually help we actually, prepare the common answer. You want to say, or you want me to say?
No, you go for it. Go for it. It's like, what is it? 15 years later.
Common answer, like you give it to me. Okay. Like a politician.
Yeah.
One answer.
We call it talking points. Talking points.
Like a one answer fit it into everything.
Yeah. Do you remember what it was?
Yeah, of course. For example, we prepare, we practice. Like it's this time serious. Like why you want to be a trainer, and then why you want to work at the Good Life, and then this thing, that thing. So I still remember you give it to me. You wrote down this one for me. Okay, so I still remember. So the answer is why you want to work with us. Okay, so the answer is I want to start my life in Canada with a reputable company. Good Life Fitness Club is the most successful club in Canada. I still remember, that's what I'm saying, repetition is so important, so strong. Yeah. I still remember exactly the same sentence you wrote down for me 16 years later.
Yeah, and I was like, emphasize this word and this word.
Yeah, and then, but right now I can say to you nicely, easily, but this little thing, one page, I memorize it. It took me like 1 or 2 days to do it because, English is a second language. And then, my last chance, I thought, is so nervous. So I practiced so many times. I couldn't even say without I'm thinking about it. Seriously, like all the thing, that repetition burning, US Navy SEAL or whatever, emergency.
Exactly. It's like the gun. They take the gun apart and they can do it with the
That's right. Repetition. Because I didn't want to. This my last chance. I don't want to say something. Yeah, like whatever the person in front of me asked me. It doesn't matter what they ask me. I just gonna answer the same thing.
Yeah, by the end, it was like, when the doctor, they have the hammer and it's like you didn't think, you just
reflexor. Yeah, like a muscle memory. Yeah, repetition very important, and then having a great teacher is very important too. And then my side here, you gotta want it. You need to find out why. As you said earlier, beginning, you need your why, purpose. Exactly. Why you need to study. Exactly. Why you need to study English. What for me, I wanted to get a job over there. I needed it, right? As a personal trainer, I wanted to stay in Canada. I want to get a permanent residency. You like why, and then at the end, you need hard work.
Yes.
My even Joseph, my room, beside my room, he even end up memorize all the sentences because I practice so many times.
So he can be a personal trainer too.
No, he can't because he can
No,
only
he doesn't have it.
he can only the answer.
Okay. In Sang-il's situation, he was at the point where he had memorized most of the activities within the Canadian personal. There's actually a manual for personal trainers. So you generally, what people do is they learn the framework of this and they improvise each exercise. So for the test, they would have to say something, and they make up the exercise based on the framework of this manual. No. Sang-il, he had trouble speaking it English clearly, so he memorized the whole manual. And so it was just like a Marine. Like you'd be like, hit play on number 14, and he could do it perfectly. And we'd go through it, and I'd say, okay, this word here, this is a little bit academic, like pronated. I don't even know what that means. What does that mean? Oh, it means hands like this. So hands. So we'd fine tune it. But at the end of the day, I mean, he had that. He learned a script and was able to perform the script like an actor. Like you were almost like an actor in a foreign movie. It's like if I went to Korea and I got onto a TV show and I memorized the lines, but I had the emotion in the right places, and everyone was like, I think that Ben, I think he can speak Korean. Whereas like, no. So that, and then this is the important point also, is that you did get the job, and the clients would have noticed that you didn't speak English perfectly, but they
didn't care though.
Yeah, but they appreciated your level of motivation because a lot of people,
my professional, the knowledge and the wisdom, and then
exact. Sang-il was present for every client, 100% energy every client, which I'm sure was exhausting. But I remember visiting you at work in your first couple of months there. I visited you for lunch, and you were just one of many. But then I visited you again like 6 months later, and everybody, when you walked past people, it was like a manager was walking through. Being a really determined person, no matter where you're at, that goal, your goal was to be the best personal trainer in Canada, right?
Yeah.
And I think you achieved it.
I did. Because of you.
And I remember at one point, then you won best personal trainer. It was an award. What was it called?
The Canadian Fitness Professional Association here, the best trainer in Canada. So I nominated like few times, okay, but I didn't get it. But a lot of other the reason, not that's because I'm not the best before, but other reason, it's representing like Canadian, the personal trainers, like you business wise, like you do a lot of volunteer work for your community, and bunch of other bunch of other categories, right?
Yeah.
And finally, I got it. The English skill was important as well, because finally, my English up to the point you guys can understand.
It's better each time, and that's the thing, is when you have the positive interactions. And this is one other thing that I think, this is not related to language, but it will help you in life and with language, is unreasonable, outrageous belief in yourself. So Sang-il, if he was a different person, he could have said, I don't really speak the language. How am I going to go there? How am I going to make it work? And he was like, no, I got this. I'm awesome. I'm the best. They just need to see it. And he put the work in. So this belief in yourself is something else that's important. So Sang-il, he didn't stop there. He became really known as the best of the best. And then he went and he opened his own gym. Like he could have it's very easy once you come to a country and you make things work. You really give a lot of your soul to do this. I tell you, it's very hard to come to a new country where you don't speak the language and to succeed. And so the natural thing is to do that and then be like, okay, I'm going to take it easy now. But no, he's like, no, I've done this. What's next? Next, I'm building my own gym. And that's also been a great success. And so, of course, you've been seeing, I'm assuming, shots from his gym as I've been following you.
I don't know about right now Korean English learning system. I don't know right now, but my experience. First time I did English exposure, honestly, like grade 7. Okay.
Yeah.
Grade 7. I don't know right now. Okay. Anyway, so we like read hello, how do you do, read and grammar. All right, so we've like reading, grammar. Okay, that's how we start. And I think still right now. Okay, so for example, my nephew, he's a very smart guy. Okay, he's very smart. So and then he's better than other kids. So he came here first time. He couldn't speak English well as he's reading and writing.
Yeah.
So he came here last year, actually, before COVID, 1 month. And the end of the 1 month, he
Yeah.
And then he went back because, with my Spartan style, the teaching skill. Okay. So, but
Yeah.
because of, but a lot of kids, actually older people, even more difficult. They have like anxiety attack. Basically, if you graduate middle school, you have enough the vocabulary to actually be able to have 5 to 10 minutes of a conversation. But they can't. They focus on because of a grammar and reading, and then like a TOEFL and then TOEIC, right? Exam. So what's your style, Canadian way to learn English? How you grow, how you learn your story.
Okay. First of all, there's nothing wrong with doing the grammar work. It's going to help you a lot in future. It's never wasted time. It's just a question of the best optimization of how you use your time. So it's like you said, like if you have all that background knowledge, maybe for you, maybe there's a summer work exchange program in Australia or New Zealand, maybe you can do that and work at a coffee shop for a summer and just taking coffee orders and chatting with people, because you're meeting a lot of new people. So spend the money doing a semester abroad. If you're young, absolutely try to find a way to do a work abroad. Working abroad is much better than studying abroad. I don't mean in terms of getting a job. I mean, if you want to speak English, it's gonna be really helpful to you to just go and work at a coffee shop in New Zealand.
Working holiday.
Exactly. And it doesn't have to be some fancy job where you're doing some analysis. It should just be a job where you're talking to a lot of people. So if you are looking at a work abroad, maybe if you can find a work abroad in some kind of town where nobody will speak Korean, because in Toronto,
Newfoundland.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, not Quebec City.
The cultural support is good the cultural support is good as well. So if you go to Toronto, there's a huge Korean population.
Too easy.
Yeah, exactly. You need to be aware that will help you to land on your feet, as we say, meaning to get a job, to have friends. But in the long term, you might have challenges because it's too easy to not speak English.
That's right.
So that's something to...
Yeah, all my experience, first 1 year, I didn't hang around with Korean people because I want, this is Canada. I want to hang around with Canadian people. Not many Korean students come here, okay? Or Chinese or Japanese students to come here. They actually hang around with Canadian. They hang around with their people or, like English second language people. You need to do your best to hang around with native people because their expression, their culture is different, right?
Yeah, another thing to do. I mean, there's a lot of, for example, English teachers in Korea. Maybe one of your students could create a cultural exchange group.
Okay, so Last question I want to ask is, if you to become a Korean, like English, and the educational director, how would you set up the public school, the educational system? So how do you do that?
So if I created a school, I would definitely have play-based learning for the younger kids. So what would that mean? That would mean, for example, you could have children building castles out of Lego or something, but they would have to describe to the other students what they're doing all the time. So what are you doing? Oh, I am putting the block on the top of the castle to make a wall. So little play-based things like this to make it fun for the students. And I think, again, because the motivation is very important, I would make a partnership with Western schools. Now, I think the beauty of the internet advancing is you don't need to spend thousands of dollars and send people across the world anymore. You could literally make an hour where you have some partner school of maybe there's a school of kids learning Korean somewhere. It could even be, let's say there's children of Korean people who are learning Korean, so they don't lose their own culture. You could partner with one of these schools in Toronto because those kids are going to speak really good English.
That's crazy.
And you could have them meet together. And I think anybody who's heard this is probably now writing down the idea and going to do it because it's a great idea. So I don't want to get into specifics, but what I can say is like practical application. So when I taught business language for my corporate clients in Frankfurt, I made them do presentations. I told them, okay, right now we are in a meeting. This is the subject of the meeting. I am the opposing company. You are your company. You must sell me on your idea. And I'm going to argue with you about why your product is no good. Or I'm going to ask you questions about your product. Or I'm going to tell you I want this service. Describe how your services meet my expectations. So you see, it became a very practical, lively thing. So I never focused on grammar because I always felt that there was an opportunity for that elsewhere. So I'd say I'd try to make it fun so that the students who are working already 14 hours a day, like unbelievable determination, I'd try to make it fun for them so it's something that they want to do and they're not like falling asleep. And the second thing I do is I would do a lot of exchanges because in the world of supply and demand, there's always someone somewhere who needs what you have. It's more of a matter of finding where. And I'm absolutely positive that there's enough Korean populations in, various large English-speaking cities where the parents are worried that their children will not speak Korean well or lose the culture. So I think that would be an amazing opportunity for exchange. And it wouldn't cost anything because on both sides, there's a need and the value is equal, right?
That's right. Like you and I exchange.
Yeah, for sure. So that's a general concept. So I think, Sangil, we've talked for a really long time, and we did this on purpose because we thought we want to just express a lot of ideas so that the students will have their own ideas. But if I say one thing, it's start with what is your goal. Write your goal into a sentence, Korean or English, doesn't matter, about what you want to achieve. Then write out, what is the way I'm going to be exposed to the language? Is it going to be Netflix? Is it going to be YouTube videos? What will I listen to on YouTube? How am I going to use it? Okay, where am I finding people to meet with? Studying. How will I study this so that it's not boring and it's not just another thing I'm studying? Answer these questions, start with that, and much of the other problems will answer themselves. And as well, I do teach. I'm available to teach online, and that's something where I think in the description I can put my information, and anybody who wants to reach out and discuss something custom, we can discuss that. I don't work really with too much pre-produced material, and I don't work on grammar. I tend to help people on projects. So if you're a banker and you need to fine-tune a policy, to express that in English, I know a lot about that, or practicing business meetings, and I also work with younger people as well, but I don't teach grammar too much. You got to go somewhere else for that. I'm more into practical application, and when I say practical, I don't mean just chatting. I mean, like, what are you trying to achieve here? Okay, we're going to practice that one thing until we get it, and that's what we did with you, and it worked. Any other thoughts, Sangil?
Any of some Korea International School, the president or CEO or owner, they should hire you
Oh, okay.
to set up their program because your idea is bright idea.
I'm interested in anything as long as it's an interesting challenge. So if you have anybody out there who wants to work on something, I'm open to discussing that.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
So let's end here. And please, if you're watching, make a comment, give feedback, because we might end up we'll probably end up having another video in future.
Yeah. Just
touch base on this because
too short, too little time to bring everything in.
yeah,
right?
we're talking about. But anyway, the idea of this was just to inspire you with a few ideas. So put some comments down because we're going to take that and any contact you give us, and we'll try to work on something even more informative because this was just very broad and just a starter video about, am I spending money effectively? Do I have a plan? How can I get started? So hopefully this has been enough to get the ball rolling, to get you started. And with Trainer Joe, you're in very good hands.
Yeah, thanks for your time, Ben. And then it was a really, very informative time with you. And then no one. I didn't get any this great idea from any other English teacher. So thank you